So today, like I said, will be about the same deal as yesterday. Yesterday we learned 8 kinds of angles. We took the quiz about, or 8 points worth of angles. 4 kinds of angles with definitions. So we just did that 8-point quiz. Tomorrow we'll redo all those 8 points, and then this little section of the board is going to throw on 12 more points. I'll have a section tomorrow where I'll say, name me the angles again, same way. But there will be another section that says, name me some kinds of triangles. So we'll do what we did yesterday. We'll just sort of brainstorm this out. Can anybody name me a kind of triangle that you've ever heard of in your life? I'll fill in the missing gaps if we run out, but I bet there's some people here that have heard of blah, blah, blah kind of a triangle.
Trapezoid?
No, that's a whole other shape. Trapezoids have 4 sides, so we're looking for anything with 3 sides. It'll have like an adjective and then triangle, some kind of a triangle. Anybody ever heard of any kind of a triangle before? There's one pretty famous one that starts with an I. If that helps anybody. There's an E. There's an S. There's also an A, an O, and an R. If that sparks any memories, but we'll see in a second. Anybody, a kind of triangle that you've ever heard of? These will come faster usually. Once we have them, you're going to go, oh, I could have done that.
It's acute.
There is an acute triangle, absolutely. So acute triangle is a thing, 100%.
Number 5 is obtuse.
There is an obtuse triangle, for sure, 100%.
Right?
There is a right triangle, for sure, 100%. If you're still on 261, on the page 260 or 261, every triangle that they drew on 260 and 261 is one of these 3 types. Does anybody know what every single picture on 260 and 261 is, and which type of triangle? Anybody a shot?
Right?
They're all right triangles. Why are they all right triangles? Anybody have a thought? What makes a right triangle be a right triangle? They have a right angle. So a right triangle has one right angle in it. I will not ask you to draw again on any of these quizzes, but I can draw, maybe that helps us understand. Any triangle that I draw that has a right angle in it, one of them is called a right triangle. How do we show that there's a right angle on things a lot? A little square in the corner. So any triangle that has one of those little squares in one of those corners that has one right angle, that is a right triangle. You could never have 2 right angles. So here's a ridiculous drawing that I'll erase. If this was like the bottom and we tried to build a triangle by going with a right angle here and a right angle there, why would that never work out? Why can I never draw a right angle here and there? Yeah.
Because it wouldn't connect.
Yeah, those sides would never connect. If I draw this to be a right angle, it doesn't matter how far I draw it. And if I make this a right angle, it doesn't matter how far I draw it. Those 2 sides are never going to connect each other. And for it to be a triangle, you need the sides to all connect. So that just can't be a thing. So right triangles, they can have one right angle, that's our deal. Let me see, looking around. No, lots and lots of right triangles pretty much everywhere. I don't see a good picture in the book of any of these. So I'll just draw it. An acute triangle would look kind of like that. To you, that probably feels like a normal triangle. Use that word. An obtuse would look more like this. Can anybody explain in any way And when we're on screen, did I just go off screen for those pictures, or were we still on screen for the pictures?
You're still on.
We're good? All right. Can anybody explain what happened there with the acute versus the obtuse? How you would know an obtuse versus an acute, or explain that?
It like flips.
That's sort of true, yeah. Anybody have a way to explain it? Kind of like this. It's going to be an explanation kind of like this explanation. What does an obtuse have? No, there's no right angle in that. If it had a right angle, it would be a right triangle. If I go to draw an obtuse, I'm going to draw by doing something like this. And then making a connection. Why am I drawing it that way? What's up with obtuse triangle?
Because it's degree.
Yeah. What's it have? Like a right triangle has to have one right angle. What does an obtuse have to have? It has to have one obtuse angle. We said a second ago, you can't have two right angles. That wasn't ever going to make a connection. Would it be ever possible to have two obtuse angles?
Yeah.
No. If we have like our bottom side, and we open up super wide over there to be obtuse at that corner, and we open up super wide to be obtuse at that corner, what problem do we still have that we had on the other one? They're never going to touch each other. You could never have two obtuse angles. You could only have one. So if you have one right angle, you're right. If you have one obtuse angle, you're obtuse. Anybody have a thought on what you need to be acute? I'll tell you the answer is not one acute angle.
Two acute angles.
That's closer. You have to have all acute angles. To be an acute triangle, you need all acute angles. Because if we go to this, if you have one obtuse in this, we have one angle that opened wide. What kind of angle is this then? This is the obtuse, that one is,
Right?
does that have the square in the corner? Is that making a perfect LRT? This is pretty narrow, that is acute. This one is acute. Anytime there's one obtuse, there's automatically two acutes. For rights, this one's a right. What kind of angles are these other two? They're acute. A right triangle always has two acutes in it. So to classify as acute, you need no obtuses, no rights. Everybody's got to be acute. To be an acute triangle, you need all acute angles. Again, tomorrow, you don't need the pictures, but you need the explanations that I'm giving you. Right? One right angle, obtuse, one obtuse angle, acute, all acute angles. Something about that little mini family of three? Then there's another little mini family of three that has nothing to do with angles.
I was gonna say three is straight.
No, yes, there isn't a straight. Yeah, that would be a good guess because it was part of the other family.
Yeah.
But if you go straight, you could never make a triangle
Yeah.
out of that. You're stuck with like a straight line. There's nowhere to build. Anybody a thought? You will have heard of that one.
Isosceles.
Isosceles is correct. Can anybody spell isosceles? Because that's a trickier one. Anybody want to give isosceles spelling a shot?
ISAU.
Nope. Anybody want to shoot at it? You're brave. We'll give you credit for bravery. It's a hard word to spell.
ISOCELES.
I'm with you to the O. Anybody want to shoot at it? Any good spellers? It's ISOS for the isos part, and then the celes part brings a C into play, and then a bunch of E's. CELES. ISOS, CELES. Does anybody know what an isosceles triangle is about? I'll draw you one. So that triangle would be isosceles. Anybody, now that you see one, can you put in words why I drew what I drew? What made that triangle be isosceles?
Is one part's more narrow than the other, like those two bottom?
Yeah, so what's true about the other two?
They're cute.
No angle works.
I don't think it's right.
Anybody? We're going to be talking about sides, I'll tell you that. What can we say about the sides in this?
They're not all equal sides.
That's true, but we can get a little bit more detailed than that. Try to keep. Yeah, two sides are equal. If you have two sides that are equal, that makes you have an isosceles triangle. The third side could do whatever it wants. Okay, we need two of them to match. The third side, hey, whatever. But if two of the sides match, that's called an isosceles. Does anybody know a name of another word now, maybe, if we connected? Or does anybody have a thought on what other definition we could have? So this definition has two sides match, and that created a word. There's some other ones about the sides that we can create words. It's in that neighborhood. It's E-Q-U-I-L, and then there's more letters. Anybody a shot at a word or a shot at maybe what a definition of this is going to be? No, because that would have a V there.
Equalator. Dang it.
That's very close.
Equilateral.
Equilateral. E-R-A-L. So equilateral, in terms of spelling, the E-Q-U-I is a pretty common prefix. It just means stuff's the same. Lateral, if you're a football fan, maybe you know about laterals. Like one of those football games ended up with the team trying to make a bunch of laterals off the kickoff because there was like 3 seconds left. I think that was the Chiefs game. That they tried to like pitch the ball to each other and just ended up running out of bounds. Every once in a while that works. There's a famous college game where at the end the guy's like jumping on the band and hits a guy with a tuba. Did you ever see that one? Like they ran a kickoff back and they pitched it like 1,000,000 times and the band came on the field because they thought the game was over and this guy's like running and he's like,
Also,
let's score a touchdown. He like
Miami Miracle.
clobbers this guy in the band.
It's the Patriots.
Anyway, equilateral. Anybody have a shot at what the definition might be for that? It's kind of similar to this. I'll draw you one as best I can. That's not bad, but I don't know that it's perfect if we grabbed a ruler. Anybody have a thought on what makes this triangle be equilateral-ish if I could draw?
All sides equal.
All the sides are equal. So if we have 3 equal sides, that makes the triangle be equilateral. So then let me ask you a question. So here's the rule. To be equilateral, you need all 3 sides equal. To be isosceles, you need 2 sides to be equal. So one of these things is true. Is an isosceles automatically guaranteed equilateral? Is an equilateral automatically guaranteed to also be isosceles? Both of those are true, or neither. That's all a lie. Anybody have bravery to say what you think about that? Either an isosceles is automatically going to be equilateral, or an equilateral is automatically going to be isosceles, or both, or neither. Like, for example, if you're in Pennsylvania, you're automatically in America. If you're in America, you're not automatically in Pennsylvania. That's true in one direction. They're not both true, they're both not neither true. It's like, it's true in one direction. We encountered this with like squares and rectangles. Every square is a rectangle. Only some rectangles are squares, because squares have more detail to their definition. So does anybody have a thought on, does equilateral automatically makes you isosceles, guaranteed? Does isosceles automatically make you equilateral, guaranteed? Both? No, it's all a lie.
An isosceles is automatically equilateral?
Disagree. To be an isosceles, you have 2 equal sides. If I tell you you have 2 equal sides, you don't know what's going on with that third type.
Equilateral was automatically isosceles?
Equilateral is automatically isosceles. Equilateral has 3 equal sides. If you have that, if you know you have 3 matches, you have to have 2 matches.
Yeah, you have to have two.
So if it's equilateral, it's guaranteed isosceles. So who's left? There's only a third choice. So 3 sides match, it has one name. 2 sides match, it has another name. What's our choice about what will be going on with the sides for it to have this other name?
No equal sides?
No sides match. If you have no equal sides, that's going to be this third kind of triangle, where you'd have like a real long one, kind of like a medium one, and then a shorter one. Any triangle you draw that goes long, medium, or that's probably short, medium. You know, anything with long, medium, short, that's this last category, and this one you just might not know. Anybody have a memory bank now that we did the other ones? Maybe it's in there, but sometimes this is the least likely one that people your age would
Wait,
know.
I have one question there.
Yeah.
Is there an O after the C?
There's not.
Dang it.
This is called scalene.
I was gonna say scales.
It's called,
Dang it.
yeah, scalene has nothing equal. And then we'll take one quick step over here, then I'll tell you what's up with homework and quiz. So there's one more word we're going to do. I didn't draw a million shapes on the board because it's kind of similar than what we did yesterday. What was the word yesterday? S word? Similar. Similar meant it was the same shape, but it was not necessarily the same size. There's a different word in math if it is the exact same shape and the exact same size. 2 identical twins. There's a math word for that. Does anybody know that math word? Starts with a C. O. Congruent. C-O-N-G-R-U-E-N-T. Congruent means things are the exact same size and they're the exact same shape. They're perfect, identical, 100% matched twins. I drew a lot of shapes up yesterday. I think maybe like 9 or 10 shapes, and we said yes or no a few times. If you could think back to yesterday, there's only one set of shapes we would have said yes for congruent, because I had on the board, if I could draw, somewhere on the board I had 2 circles that were the same size. Those are congruent.
Yeah.
Everything else, they might have been the same shape, they might have been different shapes. The ones that were the same shape, they were different sizes. Almost nothing yesterday was congruent. Congruent means it's got to be the exact same size and it's got to be the exact same shape. There's no differences at all, other than you could turn stuff. Like if I wanted to take this isosceles triangle and flip it on its head, this triangle is congruent to that triangle because I can just like flip it back on top of itself. But those are congruent because they're the exact same shape, they're the exact same size. In an interesting twist also, every triangle belongs to 2 words. So when I drew you this one to show you isosceles, that's also an acute. When I drew you this to show you equilateral, that's also an acute. When I drew you this one to show you scalene, because this opened up crazy wide at that corner, what type was this in addition to being scalene? Who was it?
None.
Because this one corner, this top corner right there is open like crazy wide. What are the super wide angles? Obtuse. So this caused it to be obtuse. This, I was also trying to show you scalene, but I drew by accident a perfect sort of L corner. So what kind of triangle is that? It's a right. When I drew you a right here, I think I accidentally made these 2 match. I wasn't trying to, but this side basically matches that side. This has 2 matching sides. So this is right, but it's also, what's it called when we get a 2 match?
An isosceles.
That's an isosceles. This, let's see. Yeah, I'd say I accidentally made those match too. I think this is about the same as that if I could draw. So if 2 of them match by accident, that's called isosceles. I also think I made these 2 match, and I made those 2 match. So in addition to being acute, these are also isosceles. So every triangle has 2 names. One name based on the sides, another name based on the angles. When we go to do this on a quiz, there is a day that I'll draw you pictures and you use the titles. I'll ask you to do it in such a way that you use each title once. So if you use each title once, you'll be good. So here's a recap of where we are. So quiz, it's very similar to what we did today, but it's not 8 points, it's 22 points. So the first question will be like 1 to 8, name and define the angles, same way we did today. Then it'll be a 12-point section where I'll say name and define some triangles. So you would do 3 where you're talking to me about the sides, and then you would do 3 that you're talking to me about the
Shape.
angles. So there's 8 points of that, 12 points of this, we're at 20. I'll ask you to tell me a definition for congruent. Congruent, you'd say it's the exact same shape, it's the exact same size. And then what's the other word that I said it would be a 22, so there's one more word. Who is the other word? Kind of like congruent?
Similar.
Similar. Similar is the exact same
Size.
shape, but it's one hard to spell word about size. It's not necessarily the same size. Let me spell you necessarily just so you have it. Can anybody grade with spelling spell necessarily?
NES.
Nope.
NECESSARILY.
True. Okay, so for congruent, it's the exact same size, it's the exact same shape. For similar, it's the same shape, but it's not necessarily the same size. So if you need that, jot that down. If you missed that, it's on the video. Watch the video. You can grab it or grab the notes from yesterday from your friends. So priority 1 for tomorrow, 22-point quiz on vocab. Study that. If you study that, that's a real easy 22-point grade to get your grade period off to a nice start. Secondary thing we're doing, there's a book page. Book page is 267. 267, we're just going to do everything over there. There's an A to F that asks you about some shapes. And then there's a 1 to 25 that'll do a little bit of everything. Tomorrow in class, we'll probably do the vocab quiz first. Then a small gap to like review what we've been doing for the last week. And then we'll do another quiz that's not so much vocab, but it's more like the homeworky things we've been doing for a week. But there might be some vocab on that because that's been a part of what we did. The things that we've done this week that make the quiz, there were those like L-shapey things where we were doing perimeters and areas for a little bit. There was a ruler where we did how small were the smallest baby marks on our most recent ruler.
16ths.
We went all the way down to 16ths on our ruler. And then there's been a lot of words. So it would be a combination of L-shapes, perimeters, areas, rulers as far down to 16 with all these wordy sort of words. Yeah.
Spelling counts tomorrow.
Say again?
Spelling counts.
Spelling will count tomorrow. Spelling's always halves, yeah.
Oh, what page is it?
267 is our page. Yeah, 267, we're doing all of it. So quiz tomorrow. So again, vocab quiz, a little bit of a review from the week, problem quiz, and that's our day. Anybody, anything else question-wise? Kill the camera.